Hey guys, and welcome to episode 14 of Directed by Steven Spielberg. This is it. This is the one I've been waiting for because it involves my favorite film of all time. And that film is, of course, the 1993 sci-fi action classic Jurassic Park. On top of being my favorite film, it is also probably the film I have watched more than any other in my life, but that said, I still took the opportunity to watch it again before doing this video. Since I was an infant, this film has helped shape my imagination throughout my childhood, leading all the way through to my adulthood, where I now appreciate the imagination of film. Beyond my own feelings for the film, Jurassic Park undoubtedly changed cinema forever, particularly when it came to pioneering new technology with regards to CGI. Jurassic Park is an all-time classic, and I can't wait to discuss it in depth, particularly from the perspective of the man who directed this film. So join me as we analyze this incredible film 65 years in the making. Hold on to your butts. Jurassic Park is the story of a theme park containing dinosaurs that have been brought back from extinction through the science of cloning on the fictional island of Isla Nublar. Billionaire industrialist John Hammond has created the park and requires experts Dr. Alan Grant, Ellie Sattler, and Ian Malcolm to sign off on its viability after a recent incident. Their arrival at Jurassic Park is initially met with wonder and amazement at the sight of the dinosaurs, before they embark on a tour of which a lawyer and two kids, Lex and Tim, tag along. Things take a sharp turn when the power goes out to the park, caused by tech saboteur Dennis Nedry. This unleashes the dinosaurs, including the mighty TRex, as the main characters are split up and must survive the dangers of the island, with the dinosaurs now loose out of their enclosures. Dr. Grant, Lex, and Tim navigate the wild, with Grant having to reluctantly take on a fatherly role to protect the kids. With the cunning velociraptors now on the loose, the events of the film culminate with our main characters being stalked by the raptors until being saved by the T-Rex at the last second, before escaping the island with Hammond's dream officially over. The end. When you break Jurassic Park down to its core message, simply put, it's a cautionary tale. It's essentially a story about scientists playing God in bringing prehistoric creatures back to life, with no consideration for whether or not it's actually a good idea. The entire film can be summarized right here.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
It's a commentary on the dangers of modern technology, contrasted against the wonders of modern technology and that constant debate as to how far we should push the envelope. It's also promulgated when dealing with the presence of the dinosaurs within the film. We see a vast range of dinosaurs in this film, from peaceful herbivores to hungry carnivores, yet the message regarding all of them is consistent across the board.
Don't let the monsters come over here!
They're not monsters, Lex. They're just animals, and these are herbivores.
And then when specifically asked about the motivations of the carnivores,
Kind of just do what they do.
no matter how terrifying the dinosaurs may be at times, they are always conveyed as animals and never in a way that antagonizes them beyond their natural instincts. There was a previous vision for Jurassic Park by none other than James Cameron that had the dinosaurs presented in a more horror-like context, similar to the novel, but it was Spielberg's involvement that helped shape the more innocent portrayal that was based on his love of dinosaurs as a child. Speaking of the man, let's talk about the Spielbergian aspects of the film. Starting off, Spielberg lights are used sparingly but to great effect, helping to set the mood in the various scenes it appears. There are a number of tracking shots in this film, but there are a couple standouts of its use. In particular, there's two knee-high shots pushing through tall grass, the first instance with Timmy approaching the Triceratops, then the second being the first-person Dilophosaurus perspective as it stalks Nedry. The Timmy shot helps to enhance the perspective of a child when approaching a great beast, but also helps to emphasize the size of the Triceratops even when it's in a weak, compromised position. The Dilophosaurus perspective, however, is meant to create mystery about the threat of the dinosaur, as whilst it may be small and emit a cute sound, its lurking, stalking nature show it to be something to fear. But the greatest and most important Spielberg hallmark in this film is concealment. I am wholeheartedly of the belief that if this technique was not used so consistently throughout this film, Jurassic Park would not be the film classic that it is today. There are so many instances of concealment to discuss here, and the best place to start is at the beginning. The entire first scene of the film is literally all about concealment. You have a team of security staff tensely awaiting the arrival of a container inside of which holds something of great menace. We learn later in the film that it was indeed a velociraptor, but we see nothing more than a quick flash of the eye. The whole scene plays out with the raptor inside the container, trying to break out as the security engage it from the outside. One of the workers is attacked, but we only see his reactions to being bitten, not the raptor itself. A brilliant way of building tension and setting the scene for the rest of the film. The next main instance of concealment is the introduction of the Brachiosaurus. The scene has a slow build-up, building anticipation through conversation between characters, as well as by drawing attention to facial expressions, gazing upon the concealed entity in wonder. It's such an incredible build-up and completely sold by the amazing performances of Sam Neill and Laura Dern in that moment. But the reveal has to match the build-up, and boy does it do so. For a film over 30 years old, the CGI of the Brachiosaurus is outstanding, believably bringing the dinosaur to life in order to immediately capture the attention of the audience. Verisimilitude is the word here that comes to mind. For those unaware, verisimilitude is the quality of seeming true or of having the appearance of being real. In the context of filmmaking, it's the ability to suspend the disbelief of your audience and to convince them that what they're witnessing on screen is real. That is what Jurassic Park was able to achieve, and it all starts with this scene. Concealment is used again a little later when the main group visit the Velociraptor enclosure. Throughout the scene, the Velociraptors themselves remain concealed, but their presence is signaled through various means: their screeches, rustling trees, and the dangling cow. Instead, the scene focuses mainly on the expressions of the main characters, highlighting their feelings towards what they are watching, instead of actually showing the subjects. It's far more impactful as a moment as it builds further tension for when they are officially unveiled in the third act. There are a couple more moments of concealment in the forms of the missing Dilophosaurus and the lead up to witnessing the sick Triceratops, but the best example also coincides with the best sequence in the film, the TRex paddock breakout. First of all, this scene takes place at roughly the 1 hour mark of the film, which is exactly the halfway point. So the T-Rex, the film's main draw card, has been withheld from the audience for the first half of the film. Sound familiar? From the beginning of the scene, it is a whole 2.5 minutes of build-up and concealment that takes place before we get our first clear shot of the T-Rex. It's a whole minute after that before we get our first full shot of its entire body and size. And what an entrance it is. Going back to the build-up, there's a number of events that occur that signal the presence of the T-Rex. The first is the iconic cup of water vibrations caused by the T-Rex footsteps. Then the night vision of the missing goat, the depowered electric fence shaking. It's one reference after another to let us know the T-Rex is drawing nearer without actually showing it to us. It's imperative to the impact of the moment when it finally breaks out of its paddock. Beyond the concealment, the whole sequence is perfectly executed from start to finish. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of the scene is the blend of CGI and animatronics to bring the T-Rex to life. I love this particular moment where the animatronic T-Rex bumps Grant and Malcolm's car, retracts from view for a split second, then the CGI T-Rex emerges into view again, making its way towards the children's car. That is movie magic 101 and another perfect example of maintaining the verisimilitude of the film. As incredible as the animatronics are in this scene, look at these shots and tell me the CGI isn't as good as anything today. Hands on heart, it is better than the CGI of the T-Rex in 2015's Jurassic World, over 20 years after Jurassic Park. It's truly a remarkable achievement of special effects that redefined what was possible to portray in film. To cement the importance of concealment in Jurassic Park, look no further than the screen time of the dinosaurs in the film. Collectively, all of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park share under 15 minutes of actual screen time. 15 minutes in a 2-hour film. Want to hear something even crazier? You know how essential the T-Rex is to Jurassic Park, right? What if I told you that it has less than 4 minutes of actual screen time in the film? 3 minutes and 53 seconds to be exact. In today's cinema, where everything is oversaturated and overused in film, it's a sobering reminder to know that you only need 4 minutes in a 2-hour film to make something truly iconic. 3 words summarize Spielberg's understanding of this reality, and he understands it better than most. Less is more. There's a ton of other examples of concealment I could talk about in this film, but I think you get the point. Instead, let's now talk about the characters. Each character in Jurassic Park represents a classic archetype of cinema and collectively help to contribute towards the 360 experience that is encountering a theme park full of dinosaurs. We have Dr. Alan Grant, the straight man, Ellie Sattler, the empath and love interest of the main character, Ian Malcolm, the quirky sidekick, Donald Gennaro, the timid sidekick, Dennis Nedry, the scheming villain, Lex and Tim are the innocent children, and John Hammond, the old, eccentric billionaire. So many classic archetypes and each as important to the plot. Each character's introduction is equally memorable, starting off with Dr. Grant. He's introduced as a somewhat cynical figure, hates kids, incompatible with technology, only interested in the science. But the journey he goes on, or rather is forced on, is the journey towards fatherhood, something his partner Ellie desperately wants from him. He initially cannot stand Lex and Tim and avoids them when possible, but is later forced to take care of them when the park falls apart, forcing out his inner protector. He does so rather naturally, unlocking his care for the kids, and by the end of the film, the implied realization that fatherhood doesn't seem so bad. It's a simple yet wonderful arc that feeds into a familiar Spielberg theme, absent fathers. It's mentioned in passing that Lex and Tim's parents are getting a divorce, and Tim's desperation for Alan's attention stems from his desire for a father figure. And thus the relationship between Alan and the kids builds organically through a fight or flight scenario. Ellie Sattler is very much set up as the heartbeat of the film. She loves Alan and wants a future with him, and gains joy from seeing him interacting with kids. But later on she is tasked with talking sense into Hammond, who still does not see the mistakes he has made. Which brings us to the best character arc, John Hammond. He starts off as an ambitious, eccentric billionaire with a genuine, well-intended dream of bringing dinosaurs back from extinction for the joy of the world. His greatest flaw, however, is his obliviousness of the ramifications of the technology he is pioneering because of his sole focus on his end goal. Despite clearly caring for those around him, he is always reluctant to act because of his desire to bring the park to fruition. He still holds onto that glimmer of hope that the park can be saved, all the way up until the end when he finally admits his failure. It's a tragic tale of a man's dream turning to nightmare at the expense of others. But the individual standout performance of this film is Jeff Goldblum in the role of quirky chaotician Dr. Ian Malcolm. I would argue that the most memorable character of Jurassic Park is Malcolm, based on his sense of humor and sarcastic reactions to the events of the film. But his character traits speak most directly to the message of the film being a cautionary tale. His iconic line of "life finds a way" is a perfect summary of what the film is all about. And of course, let's not forget Wayne Knight's wonderfully scheming performance as Jurassic Park tech whiz Dennis Nedry. I mean, this alone is enough to make his performance memorable.
It's cool to compartmentalize inside.
But the humor he brings to the film is invaluable. I would be remiss to not mention the John Williams score in Jurassic Park. An absolutely phenomenal soundtrack that beautifully complements the scenery and imagery of the film. The music evokes themes of wonder, nature, and imagination, all consistent with the theme of presenting the dinosaurs as animals rather than monsters. None of us forget that iconic shot of the helicopter arriving at the island with the theme playing in all its triumph. I can't say enough about Jurassic Park in terms of what I love about this film. It's a perfect blend of action, adventure, drama, humor, whilst also being genuinely thought-provoking. The themes are absolutely universal and speak to each of our innate imaginations, many of which started with dinosaurs when we were kids. In some ways, this film fulfills the dream of many to witness dinosaurs in real life, and by God does Spielberg and his team pull it off. On a budget of $60 million, they spawned a $1 billion film of impeccable quality and, safe to say, spared no expense. And there it is, Jurassic Park and episode 14 of Directed by Steven Spielberg. It's always a pleasure to talk about my favorite film, and I hope you gain some further appreciation for it that you perhaps didn't have before. Now comes the hardest part of having to score this thing whilst trying to remain as objective as possible. For anyone that's been following the series, you would know that E.T. currently sits atop these rankings with a score of 9.5 out of 10. Now, I do love Jurassic Park more than E.T., but the question is it pound for pound a better film? Technically speaking, I think it is, but when it comes to weight and emotion, I think E.T. is slightly superior. They are neck and neck, but I'm going to take a leap here and give Jurassic Park a 10 out of 10, placing it above E.T. for the new first place in the Steven Spielberg rankings. I just cannot fault this film in any way. It perfectly executes everything that it sets out to do from the beginning, from story to characters to set pieces, action, music, everything. So that concludes today's episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. The next episode takes a very dramatic turn with the second film released in 1993 by Steven Spielberg, the historical drama Schindler's List starring Liam Neeson. A film I have only seen once before, but I am keen to check out again to give you my full thoughts. That should be a good one, but until then, I thank you all very much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.